Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championships League of Legends tournament. We're going to have Hong Kong Esports going up against M19 in an elimination match. Loser goes home, winner goes to the Spodek on Saturday to play up against for their chance to get into the semi-finals. This is going to be a very, very interesting series coming up here, and I'm joined here by Crumbs, and we have got a new analyst on the end of the desk, Papa Smithy. Lovely to have you back. Yeah, excited to be back here, and this is going to be an intriguing one, like you said. Both these teams coming off losses in kind of different ways. You know, M19 kind of got bowled over by Rock's Tigers. HKE, they were in touching distance for a long time, but it always felt like they were grasping for something they wouldn't get to. So, look, all I'm going to say is I think M19 have a shot here, and I feel like if they can really make it creative, channel the Albus Nox Luna of last year, make things surprising, there's no reason they can't take a series as underdogs here.
I think so too. Definitely underdogs coming into this, but I really like what Hong Kong Esports did against H2K. They showed signs of life, lots of proactivity. Even though it didn't work and their bottom lane went at combined 0, 9, and 10, they still put up a fight, and that's what I'm looking for these teams. Being able to say, you know what, even though we're losing the game, we're looking for constant ways and avenues to make it back into it. And the only thing we saw from M19 yesterday was Lecrit's Tam Kench. It seemed like a 1v5. What can I do to try to come back into this? And one man is not enough to win against 5.
So, looking at this matchup, would you say this is probably the closest that we're going to see, especially at the bottom half of what we'd imagine the skill tier of teams, coming here? Is this going to be a fairly close matchup? If we're going to have a game go to 3 series today, do you think this could be it?
I mean, it's just one of those situations where, for both these teams, it's the best possible opposition. It's the one that, okay, I reckon we could beat these teams. I think both these teams come in confident in this specific matchup, and the goal of making it to the live crowd should be massive crowd over at the Spodek is a really big crown to be picked up, and both teams come in confidence, so hopefully we'll see them play aggressively, show us new stuff, and just make for a really lively series.
And we have seen M19 at an international tournament step up in the weirdest of situations, really, so we could, potentially see them again. Without further ado, though, let's welcome them onto the stage, M19 and Hong Kong Esports. They'll be out in a second. I think actually Hong Kong Esports really surprised us against H2K. I mean, they actually took them to a fairly long game. I know that's kind of a weird point to bring up, and you could take anybody to a long game, and you did say, Crumbs, that long games aren't indication of really how the game was getting played, but they did, for me personally, I was surprised at their performance.
I mean, honorable losses are definitely a thing in League of Legends where you're like, oh, this team shouldn't have pushed this top team as much as they did, but it's always kind of half or 50-50 when you're attributing, was it the dogged underdog actually coming in and pulling the game along, or was it the favorites actually, not being able to finish up and making mistakes? And to me, H2K, explosive start and then some struggles afterwards. So it's kind of like, okay, we did see that, but how much does it count for this best of 3? Yeah. That's what I don't know.
And there were moments in that series where Hong Kong Esports almost won fights.
Yep.
That shockwave, that completely whiffed shockwave comes to mind. Had that actually hit, or a Dragon's Rage being used in that fight, that could have easily been Hong Kong Esports' series or game to win, to advance, and not even have to play this match. So this team has signs of life, and their draft is one of the things that really speaks to me as a team that seems to have a little bit more understanding. We've seen the picks like Rengar and Ivern not really have a lot of success, whereas Malzahar and Varus are really coming into fruition here, and they value those two very highly.
Now, I remember one of the major storylines for M19 coming into this patch, coming into this tournament, was PvP Stahos. He plays Graves. He's supposed to be a Graves god, and yet we haven't seen prioritization for them with that. And actually, he hasn't played as well as you probably would have hoped from him. I mean, do we see him change things up for this series?
I mean, played a single game of Ivern. Remember, both these teams are coming off. It's just a single game this week. Single game of Ivern. Ivern very different to the farming style, specifically the invasion style that we expect from the Graves, who can kind of be a one-man army if he gets his farm on. So willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He still had a very good regular season over in the LCL, still is very high in terms of kills. So if he gets his hands on Graves, and it's a big if, given that he's shown it so many times, he can step up. But again, we're still waiting to see a lot of information on M19, because that game was kind of over very quickly. When we saw a solo kill in top in a lane that should have taken time to get ahead, and also advantages on other sides of the map, game was kind of over and dead very quickly.
Exactly, and Rox really proved to be a very aggressive team in their series, also against H2K, just being very proactive. They closed out against M19 rather quickly, and Mickey had a really stellar performance, taking advantage of the lack of pressure mid lane very early on, and so M19 really left so many questions unanswered. So even though game one, we want to judge the teams based off of their earlier performances, the composition was just so far from what you would expect that it's difficult to grab that sole performance and judge them based off that.
Absolutely. Now, let's look at the outcome of this match, right? You know, the winner of this now goes on to face Unicorns of Love, right? So they will face them in a decider match on Saturday. Is this a case of neither of these teams have a chance anyway? I mean, we've seen Unicorns of Love play well. I mean, is this just a moot point? This match just doesn't mean that much?
I mean, there's just so little information to say. If one team decisively wins 2-0, certainly they're in with an outside chance. They'll come in heavy underdogs, but with an outside chance. Right now, I just don't have enough on M19, given their struggles even regionally, to rate them on a global scale. And Hong Kong, sure, again, HKE, a very safe, a very even game in a scenario we didn't expect. But what does that mean? Will they just decisively win 2-0 here, or will it be another sloppy series, and then you have to really like Unicorns of Love?
So before we get into Champion Select, I'm going to give a shout out to our partner here at the Intel Extreme Masters, the Score Esports. Check them out for all the latest news and developments in the esports scene. They also do tips and guides on League of Legends, specifically Lee Sin. Apparently Lee Sin is a new guide out on the Score Esports.
Top champion.
Yeah, if you want to go and be like Yankos, for instance, you know, practice that Lee Sin, go and check out the Score Esports there. They have iOS apps, Android apps, and obviously on the website and the YouTube channel. Anyway, we're going to be going into Champion Select ASAP here, so we'll start to get an indication of how this series might progress, because one of the major, I think especially public outcry, because I know the analysts have different sort of opinions here, but when I've gone through Reddit and I've read these post-match threads,
sorry about that.
Yeah,
a lot of the public outcry has been, what is Europe drafting? Like, these drafts are terrible, and I think we've been a bit more tempered about how we've approached it. But again, we get a good indication from the draft phase as, you know, how teams are sort of shaping up.
I mean, we can't really take what a Redditor says about draft.
But Crumbs, if you don't have a tank, how can you win in North America?
Yeah, so, I mean...
No, I understand. What I'm just saying is that we do get, as you know, as the analysts, we do see these draft phases, and we have had you know, indications of, well, we think they should pick that, but they ban it. For instance, you were like, I'd love to see the Maokai for UL, but they banned it.
What I'll say about drafting, though, is that a lot of regions look at other regions, they're like, what's going on here? The Koreans look at EU LCS drafts and like, I don't get the priorities.
Yeah.
The EU coaches I talk to while I'm here don't understand the Korean priorities. So it's natural with how the drafting has changed and the emphasis on drafting with 10 bans that everyone has different expectations. You know, you look at Unicorns draft in the last game, a bit crazy for some regions, works for them. Didn't work in that game, of course. So it's still excitement. We're still learning, and we're going to learn more very shortly, I guess.
Yeah, speaking of draft phase, we are into it between M19 and Hong Kong Esports. Brand banned against Litgrit once more.
Just a very dominant bottom lane champion that nobody has really any experience against. So while the pick might not be so strong, the lack of practice against it makes it a lot tougher to say, you know what, we want to challenge this pick and go head-to-head against it. And so unlike Brand, though, Rengar, which we thought was kind of meh, gets first banned.
Yeah, you know, we saw the Ivern the first time out. We see a lot of Korean teams have just been blind banning Ivern against European teams because they don't have scrim practice or solo queue practice against that pick. I was talking to Stake previously, the coach of Flash Wolves, and again, not a lot of Ivern in the LMS either, so you can kind of take either just banning it out safely or leaving it up. So just interesting to see, again, some of these meta-dependent and region-dependent picks, but so far, it's mostly power banned on the side of M19.
Yeah, they banned the Jhin, and without the Varus being banned here, you'd imagine that's what they want to look to first pick if it doesn't get banned?
Absolutely. There is also the possibility of a Jace pick. We have seen that pick being gone so far.
Camille's up as well.
Yeah, Camille was taken, but Smurf's performance left a lot to be desired. So I would like to see the Jace.
And it's also worth noting that, you know, in the LMS especially, there's no priority on Camille. It's not a first pick champion. Often it even falls through picks and bans. Teams look past it. Maybe there's just no Camille gods over in the LMS, so...
No gates.
No gates, apparently. The support gods I wasn't really thinking about, but good point. So even that flexible champion that's so prized hasn't been picked, but as you say, there is one prize, and that is the Jace, which... A flex pick, I feel like we've been seeing more mid-Jace than perhaps was the case in previous weeks.
Absolutely, and he really makes a lot of use of his roaming presence. He can push the wave very quickly and then affect the side lanes, and it's just so dangerous because unlike most mid laners that have to fully commit to rotating to the side lanes, he can basically go halfway, fire an accelerated shock blast. Surprise, he just did half HP of another lane.
Might as well be a Ziggs ultimate. Feels like the range is pretty similar as well, so I take what you say, but...
Ashe and Syndra locked in here. Now, Ashe makes sense given that the Jhin and Varus off the table. You guys talked about that trifecta of AD carries right now, Ashe being that remaining one of the three. Syndra locked in very early in here for Hong Kong Esports.
I was going to make the same note now. Syndra versus Jace in the mid lane. Jace can really cleanly itemize into something that more Malmortius and actually sustain through that lane, so it's not an awful lane if we're to see the mid lane Jace. Speaking of lane assignments, already saw one game from Vincent of the AD carry. Misfortune was playing that pretty commonly in his region as well, and I think it's clever, especially because you can go for those 2 support rounds in the draft and deny away the MF support as an old Kira special.
Could this be perhaps an Anivia support flex? Hopefully not.
No. Come on, Kira's the Anivia god. We remember it from the 1v1 tournament and many tournaments prior, so just flashing it.
It wouldn't be the first time a person from a team says, I'm the better Anivia, I can take it.
I mean, you want one team to have the flex Anivia. That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, triple flex.
Never said before in a draft.
It is a double flex so far, though, MF and Jace.
Yeah, we're going to see Lee Sin locked in here for M19. I was told PvP Stehos doesn't have that in his champion pool, but looks like he's been to the Score Esports and checked out that guide. Ready to take it onto the Rift here. Tahm Kench locked in finally for Hong Kong Esports.
It's a good pick against Lee Sin. You can really deny the target that gets singled out by him, and it goes well into denying the Syndra and Ashe, because had M19 had the Tahm Kench, those 2 picks would be heavily influenced by
and I agree with you. It's kind of like a blocker. We don't want you to have Tahm Kench, because if you think about it, Tahm Kench doesn't really offer anything against Jace. He ends up just soaking up massive amounts of poke, and then his job of ejecting a carry becomes more difficult. So again, it's more picked for comp. Maybe they feel like they can afford to pick for comp, but picking a support champion for comp against Lacrit, who can really be that laning power, is a risk to take.
Absolutely, and Elise being taken out, another risk they didn't want to take, because that would make a very powerful pick composition from Hong Kong right now. If they had that Elise, you could probably round that out with a physical top laner such as Poppy or Renekton, and they would just be absolutely devastating.
So Zara comes through. Anivia ban actually comes through here against M19. And now they are left thinking about what their final ban of this draft phase is going to be. I can see the analysts wincing at that Anivia ban.
It's not that weird, to be honest, because if you were to put the Jace in the top side, Anivia is one of those mid laners that can really offer a tremendous amount of crowd control, which would round out a very physical and crowd control missing composition that M19 has so far.
I guess I feel like it's laneable against the Syndra, which maybe is a bit more of the surprise for me. The wall is very powerful against Tahm Kench because your wall behind he either has to flash or he won't be able to get the same Devour effect they did previously.
M19 don't ban. M19.
It's the second time we've had no ban on the second on blue side.
H2K did it as well.
In their last game.
Yeah.
Let's not give them credit for it. Let's say it's a bad move, because ultimately you'd still want to bet. There are champions that the opponent plays that maybe you don't want to play or have any instance to it, so just must be a miss of timing.
Now remember, M19 had the chance to draft the Graves in the first round on blue side. Looked past, and it's actually going to be HKE locking in the Graves this time out, so just interesting given those tendencies, but M19...
Honestly, the Graves looks fantastic for this right now. All the tanks minus Shen are available for the top side, so they can really have their pickings here. And with the combination of CC and just so much kiting potential, this makes a lot of sense.
This is a Licorice special right here. He's going to lock in the Bard. What do you think the final picking could be to kind of round out what M19 are trying to do? It depends where you think the Jace is going, I suppose.
I mean, it kind of needs some magic damage, so Rumble is something that you could consider in this situation.
Or you take a mid laner and send Jace top, I suppose. Nope, they're going to take the Maokai, so an element of magic damage here, but it does feel quite lacking in terms of major damage sources for that
Maokai is practically an AP.
Okay.
So you got Sunfire, you've got the Vengeful Maelstrom, he counts, and it's definitely not something that you have to keep too in mind, because you ultimately will have to itemize magic resistance.
I mean, if you're going to build huge lethality builds coming out of the Jason Misfortune anyway, right? So I suppose that makes sense in some instances. And Gragas now locked in. Haven't seen too much success in competitive Gragas top lane picks, but might work out for HK.
It's been one for Maple Snow back over in the LMS. Played against Flash Wars. Ironically, they actually had a match just before they jetted off to Katowice. It's very good in the early game. It can run the lane against any of these top lane tanks, but falls off pretty severely. And when you think about how the cask is being used, it won't be a disengage. It have to be a disengage cask because engage-wise, not the easiest to pull off. So interesting to see how it fits in the draft.
Yeah.
So rounding this up, guys, what are both of these drafts designed to do? What are the win conditions for both of these teams here?
I think for Hong Kong, you really just want to farm up, wait for that level 6, more of a level 6 reliant composition, get some picks with the CC, and you just have so much damage that anybody that gets caught in that wake will be immediately deleted.
And then just very Jace focused on the side of M19. I think if the Jace can get a really good start to roam around, you have Bard to prey upon the low mobility of Syndra and Ashe. So I think, again, we always look to liquor it, and this could be a really big one if the Tempered Fates are on form.
So predictions, Crumbs, you're 2-0 today. You're doing pretty well. Where are we going to go for this one?
I think Hong Kong has this one, to be honest. They looked much more promising than M19, and I love their composition.
Yeah, Hong Kong really solid, I think, in the draft. More reliable, so I give the reliable factor over to Hong Kong.
Okay, we're going to hand over to our casters for this next game, treated by Munchables and Froskurin.
Thank you very much, guys. We are here on the caster desk. My name is Munchables, and I'm joined by Froskurin for this one, our very first decider match. And we've already been talking about the draft in quite some length there, but I mean, how do you feel that one's gone for these two teams? Who are the big guys that we're going to be looking at in this game?
So a certain champions jump out to me. Naturally, in this meta, you're always going to be looking at the jungle mid duo. You have strong champions for both of them. You know, the Jace coming out, Kira getting his hands on that. He's always going to be a standout for M19. He's paired up with PvP Stejos, who got the Lee Sin. And funny fact about Stejos is that he has not played Lee Sin really competitively in quite a long time. He hasn't done it in 2017, so this is kind of his first Lee Sin. We've only had one Lee Sin of the tournament so far. It was picked up by Gemini on Hong Kong Esports. So because it was early in the draft rotation, it theoretically could have been a denial. You know, maybe they're afraid of the pick right there, but I don't know what to expect. I haven't seen the tape on PvP Stejos' Lee Sin.
Yeah, I mean, some of the picks, I'm super interested. First Jace of the entire tournament here. It's been banned out a lot. We are going into the game, though. Everybody's onto the Rift, so let's get this game underway between Hong Kong Esports and M19. But yeah, the Jace, first pick, a lot of priority onto this lock-in for the side of M19, and a lot of pressure going into the hands of Kira here.
Yeah, and you always have to look at Jace's breakpoints. You know, on 7.3, he has been nerfed slightly. His all-in potential on his Thundering Blows has been taken down a notch. Not necessarily so much into the early game, but more so into that late game. But, you know, 5 damage can make a difference, and you never want to walk into a Jace level 1 anyway.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things about these champions that can change stance. Often in the level 1 trades, they just have a bonus ability, right? They just have more in their toolkit. Okay. I think they were trying to posture defensively there, just in case something a little bit crazy came out from M19. And
that's always kind of the scary thing about M19. You never really know what to expect. We consistently see teams, you know, giving them the respect bans, banning away the Anivia, taking away the brand. Albus Nox Luna, you know, formerly was their former name, made their statement on the world stage when they took down the Rocks Tigers. So anything can happen. That said, this is now best of 3. And unfortunately for M19, they don't have the greatest experience. So this is kind of the thing that I really want to track over the course of this series, is how do they adapt in Champion Select? How do they adapt in comps? Because they don't have that in their domestic region. The LCL is a best of 1. They've never had to deal with this, really.
Yeah, and when we saw them at Worlds as well, that was when they started to falter, when they started to fall down, was when we got into the larger series.
Yeah, they do have some experience, you know, at the other IEMs, like Paris when they're trying to qualify into like IEM Oakland and those type of events. Those are best of events, but outside that, it's a whole new ball game. But if we kind of now look towards Hong Kong Esports, you know, we're excited about Kira getting on his Jace. There's question marks about PvP Stejos' Lee Sin. I really want to talk about the Gragas pick from Maple Snow. I always want to say Moonbeast, and I don't know why. I was joking about this backstage with Jordan, the coach from Hong Kong Esports. I was just like, I have no idea where Moonbeast comes from. Top laner's name is Maple Snow. He is a Gragas top player. He confidently plays it particularly into Shin, Maokai, and Camille, and all for various different reasons. So he likes to play it into Camille because obviously when Camille launches her ultimate, he can use his ultimate to disengage her, which allows him to walk out. Same kind of effect with Maokai in this particular matchup. You know, Maokai wants to go in, Gragas can either pop him away. Likewise, and yeah, it's not necessarily always used as an engage tool, but it does offer that as a long-range engage tool if they need it. What's really interesting to me and to keep your eyes on is what skills he maxes. So typically Gragas top will prioritize their Q because they want to maintain push priority, but yesterday Maple Snow maxed his belly bop, and it was really cool in how he was trading with Shin, because Shin would go to taunt in and he would just belly bop him away, and it actually does more damage when you put levels into it than an insta-popped barrel. Wow. So he was winning out on the damage trade, as well as then getting the cooldown refunded and getting more kind of utility and gank setup for him. So obviously very comfortable and very intelligent on this Gragas top.
I love that you call it belly bop as well. Great word.
The belly bop.
Yeah, so game is underway. Apologies about that brief pause, but the action has begun as Kira going to bring this Jace to the mid lane. Now, looking specifically at this mid lane matchup, because Kira and Gear are two of the players that we're really watching out for in this series, and we've already mentioned Jace is going to be a huge champion to watch anyway. How do you feel like this matchup specifically goes out?
I mean, the analyst desk pretty much did all the hard lifting for me. They talked about how Jace has really easy itemization, that he can deny a lot of the all-in or burst potential from Gear. Has to be careful here, though, because he lost the level 2. There he goes. Well, always scary when you lose the level advantage. Not necessarily so much for Jace because he does have those 2 starting abilities, but never a nice foot to be on. So it's just about, you know, can he get into that Hex Drinker, into that Maw, and deny a lot of the kill pressure, or will Gear get the jump on him early game when he still has that ability to pop Jace?
Yeah, and I mean, you already mentioned one of them hitting a level before the other. If Gear can hit level 6 and just go all in with that ultimate, that can be just a breaking point for that entire laning phase. But Kira going to be going with the cleanse as well, so no major immediate defensive there.
I'm really glad that you bring up kind of Syndra's big power point on the ultimate. Obviously, it's a power point for a lot of champions, but what I love is when teams unlock Syndra with that ult just because of how devastating it can be, and not necessarily use it in the mid lane, but start rotating it and bleeding it across the map. You know, moving it into the jungle, moving it into these side lanes is God5. Not really the trade he wanted.
Yeah, but already we see these aggressive trades. This is what we expect out of M19. We saw it yesterday. They went for a 2v2 kill. And Licret on the Bard. Licret's kind of got a name for himself when it comes to Bard, when it comes to Brand, when it comes to Zyra. We're going to see that in this game.
The cool thing about Bard in this composition, and we'll get to talk about it a bit more in the mid game. I want to hold it a second because it looks like Gemini is actually going to contest for this blue buff. Does have the ward placed.
We've seen Graves go for this before. Kira taking a huge amount of damage in the mid lane. This could be first blood if he can land the skills. Gear takes it. Kira didn't even flash.
And meanwhile, Gemini has also forced PvP Stay Host off of his blue buff and taken it away from him, I believe. Yep, Gemini has the blue, Lee Sin does it, so that's a 1-2 punch for Hong Kong Esports.
Hong Kong Esports just laying down the law right now. They're just making a statement as they start this game.
And that goes from bad to worse. We talked about, you know, anytime Syndra does get that EXP advantage on any champion, it's going to be punishing. Jace doesn't get a lot out of his ultimate, so it's even a bigger disparity between those two when they go from level 5 to level 6. Now that Gemini also has full control of the jungle, you have to expect that come closer to those big burst ultimates on Graves on Syndra, it's going to be a massive problem for M19 just to secure their own buffs.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of the kill, there's already a 10 CS for Gear. He's not even, it's not like he's still on his way to lane and it's all going to die to a tower or anything. That is going to remain for now. And you already mentioned how he's got that pressure. I expect that lead to grow even further. Phenomenal start. You mentioned Maple Snow. He's a big Gragas player. He's building up CS lead for himself.
And he's also got the push priority, and that's the important thing is hold on, stay host.
Coming into the mid lane. Gear flashing away from the danger though. To pull himself to safety.
And that is the thing. Yes, it was a mechanical misstep from Kira that he died with both summoners up. He had his cleanse and his flash available, has just now burned cleanse, but it allows him to still be aggressive in that lane, look to go all in and try to punish Gear. So the flash is down. Will Stay Host make another rotation to punish that, or will Licrit actually join him? We see him moseying up river. He's pinged out though.
Yeah, Nesty following him though, just being aware. Kira though, no flash available. He's gonna use it in fact because there was a flash available. Licrit is here though.
Gear's in trouble
spot right now. Doesn't quite get stunned up, and Nesty would have been there to consume him.
So you remember that push priority I was talking about of Gragas over Maokai? This is why it's so important. We see this a lot in KT Rolster's game. Now, obviously, we're on a very different landscape from KT Rolster in Hong Kong Esports versus M19, but Smev has kind of created this this dynamic where if he gets push priority, he'll shove the lane forward, disappear into Fog of War, and immediately apply pressure on the mid lane. Maple Snow did the exact same thing there with that gank behind the tower, but now Licorice bot.
Got quite already pretty low on this one. If Licorice can land a stun, nice little gobble bite. Nesty is going to be able to pull his AD carry to safety, and now M19, they're going to get collapsed on, but a nice magical journey. Gemini is here, but he's 1 versus 3. Can he actually hold out on this one? Has his ultimate, but has to back away from this one. In comes Smurf as well, but in the backside, we've got damage coming down. Licorice is going to drop as well. That's 2 kills going their way.
Hit the
Gear
Infernal.
grab for the last one. Stayhouse just trying to escape, and the first dragon is Infernal on top of it.
A bit of a disaster from both teams. Might not be over.
No, Maple Snow go back in on this one. I don't know if he can 2v1. Smurf already level 6. Has to back away in the end. Maybe he thought Gear was on the same page.
When we take stock of kind of where all of the kills land, the big thing is that Gear picks up another kill, so the Syndra continuously getting more fed. A good thing for Smurf, though, versus Maple Snow is that both of their teleports pay off, but Maokai actually is a benefactor of that kill. So taking a look at this, this is super cute. They see the teleport come in, and it's kind of the split decision where you see that Smurf is also coming in and you've left your Maokai, which I don't necessarily fully agree with, but I can understand why they're making it. This is where things go really sideways. They walk into Gear, he lands a massive stun, and then Maple Snow is just going to pretty much be there for moral support, you know, patting Syndra on the back. You got this, right?
It turns out helps out his buddy. And it is going to be another great trade for Hong Kong Esports. They have started this game off right. Already just over 1,000 gold in their favor. But importantly, especially in the current meta, no towers have been taken either side. No one's really been able to capitalize with an objective.
And we can kind of move this down back towards the Bard pick. So why I think there's a place for Bard in the current meta of like the Varus Misfortune AD carries is that I feel like a lot of teams have been overly reliant on this crutch of the Jins and the Ashes to break mid lane tower. I talk about this a lot. When you have someone like Bard, especially when the support pool is being pinched so much.
Oh, Gear's in trouble actually in the mid lane. Nice exhaust, but a summoner spell for nothing.
Yeah. When you have someone like Bard, though, he pretty much does the job that the Ashe and the Jin did. You know, you no longer need to throw that arrow or that ultimate. With the Misfortune, you just throw the Tempered Fate, you grab the mid laner, and then you immediately break the mid tower. So I hope that Licorice gets the opportunity to showcase that, unlocks himself more from this lane, and gets involved. But he needs to get closer to that level 6 right now, sitting level 5.
Yeah, Licorice still yet to hit that ultimate. Same with Vincent, who has just now hit level 6, so bullet time will be available, and Godquai has to be well aware of that. But it's a similar little interaction that we see between MF and Ashe, is what we see with Ashe and Jin, where that ultimate is often used just to counteract.
Yeah, and then you've also got the Tahm Kench, and everyone knows how I feel about Kench. Get this champion out of my game. I think he's just way too strong right now. He offers too many good things. He disrupts 1-3-1s. He lanes fairly well even against the range supports because of his gray health. He's incredibly hard to kill. He denies a lot of pick potential. So against a poke composition, though, he's not necessarily as useful, so Kira really needs to be relevant on this Jace.
But then again, even against the poke composition, the grey health still comes as a huge factor for him, just the regen that it gives him. But Gemini aggressively pushing in, will get stunned up by Licorice here, but it's not too much follow-up. Nice shock blast, good damage down onto Gemini. That should force him back.
Also, Nesty is kind of moseying his way over there. Now Vincent's in trouble.
Yeah, 1v2 underneath his tower. Godquai tanking. No, he's not. It's going to be Licorice getting the stun, though, onto Nesty. Can they follow this one up? Doesn't look like it, but at least Vincent survives.
Bit of a fumbled cooldown right there, you know, not necessarily how you wanted to use the bullet time, so missed opportunity, but good job keeping Vincent alive.
Yeah, they are going to keep their teammates alive, and now with Steos heading down, as well as Gemini